Okay, 12s, part 3 on Rowling. Let's see if I can wrap this up in 15 minutes. Fingers crossed. Where we left off before is here. She was talking about the power of human empathy, and she was humbling herself, this mighty woman, before her audience. She's reeling them in with the pathos and the ethos, and now we're about to be hit with the logos. So, unlike any creature on this planet, humans can learn and understand without having experience. They can think themselves into other people's places. And here at this part of the speech is where, again, the analogy of the roller coaster is on the upswing again. It is powerful. She is now giving hope and motivation, right? And she's also really flexing her literary muscles here, because this is very dense with metaphor and irony and juxtaposition. This next bit especially. Of course, this is a power, like my brand of fictional magic, that is morally neutral. So we have the simile and the allusion to her masterwork. One might use such an ability to manipulate or control just as much to understand or sympathize. We have the juxtaposition here, the duality of power. Imagination gives us power, but it is morally neutral. Ultimately, it is up to us to choose whether we use our imagination, our power, for good or for evil, for hope and help, or for pointless bigotry, right? And many prefer not to exercise their imaginations. Now, here she others these people. It's the unnamed they, the people who choose not to use their imagination to consider someone else's experience. Again, people who refuse to use their imaginations and instead participate in bigotry, racism, transphobia even. They choose to remain comfortably within the bounds of their own experience. They can refuse to hear the screams. They close their minds. They can refuse to know. Again, the anaphora here is othering. There are these other people out there who do this stuff, but not you guys. You guys aren't going to do that, is the implication. I might be tempted to envy these people. She talks about choosing to live in narrow spaces that lead to a form of mental agoraphobia that brings its own terrors. Again, we have the metaphor and then the ironic metaphor, the willfully unimaginative see more monsters. They are more afraid. So here she's expounding the value of imagination. If you use your imagination for good, you will see the monsters, but you will be able to confront them. And this in and of itself is its own power. Those who choose not to empathize enable real monsters. Again, we've got the irony. It's that old saying of the standard you walk past is the standard that you accept. And this is what she's saying here. One of the many things that I learned at the end of the classics corridor, so again, the repetition of the classics corridor as a motif of knowledge and enlightenment, in search of something I could not then define, was this, written by the Greek author Plutarch. So we have the intertextual reference. What we achieve inwardly will change outer reality. So this again, she's putting forth her thesis, her logos, but she's backing it up with knowledge from an ancient philosopher. This is ancient knowledge, which also adds ethos to her speech. That is an astonishing statement, yet proven 1,000 times every day of our lives. I doubt that it's 1,000, it is hyperbole, but again, she's emphasizing its importance, the significance of human impact. It expresses in part our inescapable connection with the outside world, the fact that we touch other people's lives simply by existing, right? So she's talked about herself. She's talked about the imaginary they, or the hypothetical they who exist but are unnamed. Now she winds it all the way back to her audience. She switches focus to the audience with a rhetorical question on a lot of second-person language. How much are you likely to touch people's lives? Your intelligence and your capacity for hard work, education that you have earned and received give you unique status. So again, the repetition of you and your and you and your puts the focus back on her audience, and she is, in colloquial parlance, she's hyping them up. She is saying, you have all this power. How are you going to use it? She's throwing down the gauntlet, the challenge, the way you vote, the way you live, the way you protest, the pressure you bring to bear on government has an impact way beyond your borders. So the accumulation of their power and their privileges shows their potential, shows them what they can do. And this in and of itself is inspirational. These people are about to embark on their adult professional lives. And she's saying, look at all this power you have. You can change the world. Then you've got the paradox of that is your privilege and your burden. She recognizes that this is actually a really big thing. Like she's saying to these people, you can change the world, which puts a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, which is shown by the paradox. Now, every persuasive speech has a call to action. This next paragraph, this is the call to action in which she includes herself. So she begins in second person and she finishes in first person inclusive. If you choose to use your status to raise your voice on behalf of those who have none, if you choose to identify not with the powerful but with the powerless, if you retain the ability to imagine yourself into the lives of those who do not have your advantages, then it will not only be your proud families who celebrate your existence, but thousands and millions of people whose reality you have helped to change. She's empowering her audience with these words, this accumulation of if you do this, if you do all these things, you will make the world such a wonderful place. Then she has the collective first person. Again, she alludes to the Harry Potter books. We don't need magic to change the world. We carry the power we need inside ourselves. We have the power to imagine better. The repetition of we. If we work together, we can make this world a better place. And this is her call to action. This is the crux of her entire speech. If you learn from failure, if you harness the power of imagination, there is no limit to the good you can do in this world. Now, again, if you think of the analogy of the roller coaster, if you leave the roller coaster off there, people are going to get off feeling dizzy and still a bit scared because that's kind of a lot to put on the shoulders of a bunch of 21-year-olds, right? So now what she has to do is she has to end on a high note. She needs to bring the roller coaster to coast gently and sweetly to the stop. And here's how she does it. She says, I am nearly finished. After having all these long sentences and this hugely passionate speech, we have this short, sharp sentence that changes the focus again and changes the tone to one that is more lighthearted. I have one last hope for you. She then talks about the importance of friendship. So the pathos and humour here leaves the audience feeling uplifted. She wants to impart all this knowledge to them, but she doesn't want them leaving feeling sad and disheartened. So then she talks about the power of friendship, connecting with them, something that they can all identify with. They are my children's godparents, the people to whom I've been able to turn to in times of trouble, the people who have been kind enough not to sue me when I took their names for Death Eaters. So we've got the rule of three here and also the allusion to the Harry Potter series. At our graduation, we were bound by enormous affection, by our shared experience of a time that could never come again, and of course by the knowledge that we held certain photographic evidence that could be exceptionally valuable if any of us ran for Prime Minister. And again, this appeals to uni graduates, especially in the era of social media. Anyone who went to university is going to have somewhat compromising photos, if not on social media, then lurking in some thumb drive somewhere. So again, it appeals to the uni graduates' sense of humour and is something that they can very much identify with. She ends with an intertextual reference to Seneca and again refers to the classics corridor in retreat of career ladders in search of ancient wisdom. So the juxtaposition of burden versus fulfillment, which are the graduates going to choose. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long, but how good it is what matters. Then she ends with two very short, simple sentences that are both genuine and humble, bringing the pathos, ethos, and logos all together. I wish you all very good lives. Thank you very much. So as you can see, J.K. Rowling has used her speech to take us on what is essentially a wild ride of highs, of lows, of hopelessness, of hope, of motivation, of passion and humour. And she brings it all to a finish by alluding to, again, another ancient philosopher whose wisdom has proven timeless. All right. Thank you very much.